When the atmosphere of your house changes at night, it is never without a reason. Movements that are not physical, footsteps that are not human, and whispers that don't come from any room begin to signal that the spirit realm is drawing your attention. Something has been walking through your midnight hours, monitoring your peace, observing your progress, and tracing your rising. But heaven is sounding an alarm. What has been moving in secret is about to be confronted in the open. Tonight, the light of God will expose every unseen presence, silence every watcher, and reclaim every corner of your home. Nighttime carries its own language. Sounds become sharper, shadows stretch longer, and the stillness takes on a weight that presses against your awareness. This is when activity in the unseen realm becomes most noticeable, because darkness amplifies what hides behind it. When the night deepens, spiritual motion increases, and your spirit begins to recognize what your eyes cannot. Some houses hold echoes of unresolved battles. The walls remember prayers that were never finished, tears that soaked into pillows, and fears that lingered after trauma. When the night grows quiet, those echoes begin to stir, attracting presences that feed on emotional residue. But tonight, heaven steps into that silence to cleanse it with fresh fire. Sometimes the air shifts before the enemy enters. A familiar room suddenly feels strange, as if something invisible has altered the atmosphere. You may pause at the doorway, sensing the tension, feeling an unseen gaze settle in places where peace once rested. That shift is not accidental. It is a sign of spiritual trespassing that God is ready to confront. Even your spirit responds differently when an unseen presence walks through your home. Your heart rate changes without warning. Your thoughts sharpen, and suddenly you become alert, wide awake in a moment that should feel calm. This is the spiritual sensitivity God placed in you, broadcasting warnings when darkness attempts to cross the threshold. Sometimes the night becomes unusual and noisy, not with human activity, but with sounds that seem out of rhythm with your environment. Furniture may pop, floors may creak, doors may murmur against their hinges. These disturbances are often the result of spiritual pressure touching the natural world. When the invisible presses in, the visible reacts. Other times, silence becomes too thick to be normal. A stillness hangs in the air that feels alive, almost conscious. It wraps around your senses and forces your spirit to stand guard. That kind of silence is not emptiness. It is the presence of something observing your home from the shadows. The dream world also becomes a battleground when spiritual movement intensifies. You may find yourself dreaming of someone walking through your hallway, or standing beside your bed, or staring from the corner of your room. These dreams are not random. They are reflections of real activity occurring in the unseen while your body rests. Children sense spiritual motion long before adults interpret it. A child may cry at night, refuse to sleep in a specific room, or describe shadows you cannot see. Their spirits are untouched by the noise of adulthood, making them more receptive to shifts in atmosphere. When a child reacts at night, heaven is often highlighting what adults overlook. Sometimes your sleep is interrupted at the same exact hour repeatedly. You wake up without reason, your spirit unsettled, your mind suddenly alert. These awakenings are divine prompts, showing that something moves through your home during that hour. Heaven is calling you to stand guard, not sleep unaware. Pets react to spiritual shifts too. A dog may growl at an empty corner, or a cat may stare into the hallway as if tracking something unseen. Animals pick up frequencies the human mind filters out. When a pet reacts consistently, it is because the spiritual atmosphere around them has changed. Your dreams may become heavy, intense, or unusually vivid. You may feel as if you are fighting something, being watched, or walking through rooms in your own home. These spiritual experiences are not imagination. They are encounters revealing what has attempted to enter your environment. Sometimes your home becomes emotionally charged without cause. Arguments erupt suddenly, tension fills the air, and peace disappears. This is not human nature alone. It is the influence of spiritual agitation. When darkness moves in the night, conflict often appears in the morning. Some rooms simply feel off. You may avoid them without knowing why, or feel drained when entering them. This often indicates a point where spiritual residue has gathered, tracing back to an old wound, a past event, or an emotional scar you never fully healed from. Darkness clings to unhealed places, but God is ready to cleanse them. Your intuition becomes louder when spiritual movement increases. You may sense someone behind you even when alone, or feel watched when walking through your hallway. This sensitivity is not paranoia. It is a spiritual alert system placed in you by God to detect what the natural world cannot reveal. The night often exposes what the day conceals. While sunlight masks activity and people fill their hours with noise, nighttime strips away the distractions. When everything grows quiet, what moves in the spirit becomes easier to detect. The enemy prefers darkness because fewer people are spiritually alert. But tonight, heaven wakes you up. Peace sometimes feels interrupted without explanation. You may feel anxious, restless, or unsettled before bed. These emotional waves are indicators that something has entered the spiritual atmosphere around you. Your spirit senses the invasion before your mind can interpret it. When the spirit realm becomes active in your house, even the wind feels different. The air seems thicker, heavier, charged with unseen motion. Your skin may react, your breath may shift, and you may suddenly feel the need to pray. These reactions are confirmations that spiritual activity has crossed into your environment. Tonight is the night heaven exposes it. Everything that has walked through your hallways, stood near your doors, watched from the shadows, whispered through the stillness, or monitored your rising is about to be confronted. God is reclaiming every corner of your home with his fire. Night becomes a spiritual amplifier. When the world sleeps, the unseen realm becomes louder, clearer, and more pronounced. This is when spiritual forces attempt to move with the least resistance, hoping that your silence will grant them access. But heaven watches the night more closely than any human eye, and every hidden presence that tried to slip into your space is now under divine surveillance. Sometimes your body feels the shift before your mind understands it. A sudden chill, a tightening in your chest, a sensation that something is standing too close to you even though the room is empty. These reactions are warnings delivered through your spirit, reminders that your body is wired to detect spiritual proximity long before you speak a word. Your home may begin to feel divided, with one side peaceful and another side unusually heavy. This imbalance is not emotional, it is spiritual mapping. Darkness tends to occupy corners where unhealed things linger. Memories, unresolved pain, unspoken fears. When a space becomes spiritually inconsistent, God is revealing the exact location of the disturbance. Sometimes the night feels crowded. You walk through your hallway and sense motion where no one is standing. It may be a shift of air, a faint brush against your awareness, or the feeling that something is stepping aside to let you pass. These sensations are not products of imagination. Your spirit is perceiving movement from the other realm. When darkness tries to gain foothold in your home, your dreams may start speaking louder. Visions of shadows lurking near windows, hands reaching for your door, or strange figures observing you from a distance. These dream encounters are heaven's way of showing you what has been bold enough to approach your dwelling. The enemy often chooses the quietest hour to test boundaries. Midnight becomes the preferred moment, not because it is mysterious, but because most people are spiritually off guard. While the body sleeps, the spirit remains awake, and what tries to enter in those hours believes it will go unnoticed. But tonight, nothing moving in the shadows will escape exposure. Unfinished prayers leave openings. Words you never completed. Declarations you stopped midway. Fears you never addressed. These loose ends create gaps that spiritual forces try to exploit. But when you rise in prayer tonight, every unfinished sentence will be sealed with fire, and every gap will be closed with authority. Sometimes objects in your home begin reacting to unseen pressure. A door may tremble without wind. A curtain may shift without touch. A table may creak as if weight pressed against it. The physical realm often responds to spiritual interference because the unseen carries real force. When pressure rises in the spirit, the material world feels it. Your mind also picks up on movements you cannot see. Sudden thoughts of danger, flashes of unfamiliar faces, or the strong sense that something is near you. These thoughts are spiritual signals, not fears, but warnings. Your mind receives the message while your eyes search for a source that is not physical. Emotional waves at night are not always natural. You may feel sadness, anxiety, irritation, or heaviness without any reason. These emotional shifts are often spiritual attempts to influence your atmosphere. Darkness tries to use feeling as a doorway, hoping you will accept what is being projected into the air. But tonight, that emotional invasion will dissolve. When spiritual movement intensifies, even the walls seem to breathe differently. The house creaks more than usual. The air feels dense, and silence becomes almost uncomfortable. This is because the atmosphere is carrying more activity than normal. Your home is not simply still. It is being observed by forces that heaven is now preparing to displace. Sometimes you sense a presence behind you, not as fear, but as awareness. Something in the room shifts, and your spirit turns before your head does. This sensitivity is one of God's greatest gifts. It reveals spiritual traffic long before the enemy gets close. You are not imagining it. You are discerning it. Nighttime also exposes spiritual dialogue. You may hear faint murmurs, indistinct voices, or whispers that have no human source. These voices are not coming from the physical world. They belong to the realm that tries to influence your mind through sound. Every whisper carries intention, and heaven is about to silence anything that speaks without authority. You may feel drawn to walk around your house at night, checking rooms, sensing corners, scanning hallways. This urge is not paranoia. It is spiritual leadership. Your spirit is taking inventory of your territory, recognizing that something has attempted to claim space that does not belong to it. Tonight, that claim will be revoked. At times, the very atmosphere seems to lean towards you, as though something is waiting for your reaction. This tension is the clash of realms, the Spirit of God pushing against forces trying to invade. When the air thickens, warfare is happening around you, and your awareness is a sign that heaven is actively defending you. Some nights feel unusually restless, not because of stress, but because your spirit is on watch duty. You may stay awake longer than planned or wake up earlier than expected. These moments are divine appointments. God does not let your spirit rest when something in your environment must be confronted. Your dreams may reveal fights you never started, chases you never initiated, or confrontations you never anticipated. These dreams are not symbols, they are encounters. They show you what your spirit battles while your body lies still. What you see in those dreams reflects what moves in your home after dark. Shadows may seem to stretch or shift in ways that do not match the light in your room. This is because spiritual presence bends perception. The unseen leaves hints in the seen, traces that your spirit picks up even when your mind tries to dismiss them. Tonight, those traces will be burned away. And now, heaven is preparing to sweep through your home. Every movement that crept through your hallways, every watcher that stood at your doorway, every whisper that attempted to settle in your atmosphere, God is rising to break their assignment. Your home will not remain a playground for the unseen. It will become a sanctuary of fire. Night carries mysteries the daylight cannot reveal. When darkness settles, it exposes the intentions of every unseen force that has been waiting for the silence to move freely. The enemy prefers the hours when the world is quiet, but heaven chooses the same hours to reveal what has been hiding. As the clock advances deeper into the night, the clash of realms becomes sharper around you. Your spirit begins to sense details your eyes overlook. The faint shift in air, the sudden heaviness near the doorway, the unusual stillness in the hallway. These are not coincidences. They are spiritual footprints left behind by something that has attempted to walk through your territory unnoticed. Tonight, those footprints will lead to a confrontation that heaven has already prepared you for. Sometimes your thoughts feel invaded as the night deepens. Ideas you did not invite, fears you never entertained, or sudden distractions that pull you away from rest. These mental intrusions often reveal when something is trying to influence your inner atmosphere. Darkness always tests the mind before it attempts the home, but your thoughts are guarded by the presence of God. Your dreams may shift into intense scenes, showing you movements in your house, presences near your bed, or figures watching from doorways. These dreams are not meant to frighten you. They are revelations, God uses the night to show you what tries to enter without permission. When he opens your eyes in dreams, it means the spiritual realm has been stirred by his activity around you. Sometimes the environment in your home begins to feel charged. The air thickens with unseen tension, and even quiet moments carry a strange vibration. This is the signature of spiritual confrontation. The enemy senses that its time in your space is ending, and heaven's presence has begun to rise like a tide, pushing everything unclean towards the exit. Even your emotions shift differently when spiritual presence enters your home. You may suddenly feel alert, sober, or serious without knowing why. These emotional responses are not random. They are spiritual instincts awakening. Your inner man rises to attention when the atmosphere around you becomes spiritually active. Occasionally, your footsteps echo more loudly than usual, as though something in the room is amplifying the sound. The environment reacts to your authority. When darkness tries to occupy space, it becomes unsettled by your movement, because your presence represents the Spirit of God. Every step you take announces that the rightful owner of the territory is awake. Your prayer life shifts dramatically during these moments. Words flow with unusual clarity, and even simple phrases carry weight. This is because heaven aligns your spirit with divine authority, directing your voice against what tried to hide in your home. The prayers you speak during heightened spiritual activity strike harder than those spoken in casual moments. Sometimes, the night pulls you into deeper awareness. You notice shadows that feel out of place, corners that seem more alive, and moments when you feel someone standing close, even though no one is there. Your spirit detects what the physical world fails to display. You are not imagining these impressions. You are discerning the truth behind the veil. When darkness attempts to settle in a place, the peace of God rises like a shield. You may feel an internal push to begin praying, declaring, or walking through your rooms. This push is not fear. It is spiritual empowerment. God awakens your spirit because something tried to overstep its boundaries, and heaven refuses to let you remain unaware. Sometimes you wake up with a sudden jolt, your heart racing and your breath sharp. This is not random. It is divine intervention. Something approached too closely, and the Spirit of God awakened you to interrupt the encounter. These moments may feel alarming, but they are actually evidence of divine protection already at work. Your home may begin to feel spiritually unsettled in certain areas. A doorway feels heavy, a hallway feels tense, or a room feels drained. These spots act as spiritual entry points that darkness tries to exploit. But once exposed, these locations become targets for divine cleansing. Tonight, the fire of God will sweep through every place that felt off balance. The atmosphere may produce subtle signs, like the faint smell of something unfamiliar, the flicker of light without cause, or objects reacting to unseen movement. These unusual occurrences signal that the supernatural has brushed against the natural world. You are witnessing evidence of spiritual interference being revealed by God. Your spirit may urge you to speak out loud even when you feel alone. Words like Jesus, leave, stop, or get out may rise in your mouth without planning. This is spiritual authority responding instinctively. The moment darkness crosses your boundary, the Spirit of God rises in you like a warrior unsheathing his sword. Some nights feel like a spiritual prompting rather than a disturbance. You may feel compelled to walk through your rooms, touch your walls, or pray over your doors. These actions are not random impulses. They are divine instructions. God moves you to secure areas where the enemy attempted entry. The energy of your home may shift dramatically after moments of spiritual tension. Peace returns suddenly, the air lightens, and your spirit settles again. This shift indicates that whatever attempted to enter has been forced out by divine resistance. Heaven's intervention leaves behind a tranquility that darkness cannot counterfeit. And now, heaven is preparing to sweep through your home. Everything that has walked through your home in the dark, everything that has tried to whisper into your dreams, everything that observed you in secret is being dragged into the light of God. The night will no longer be a playground for unseen forces. It will become a battlefield where heaven claims full victory over your home. When spiritual pressure increases around your home, your environment begins to respond in ways that cannot be easily explained. The night grows heavier, The corners feel tighter, and the air seems to vibrate with activity. These are signals that a confrontation is unfolding beyond what the natural world can reveal. Your spirit senses the tension, because the unseen realm is shifting right around you. Your awareness becomes sharper during these hours. You feel the slightest movement, the faintest motion near the walls, or the subtle shift of presence near your doorway. These impressions are spiritual alarms sounding within you. Heaven heightens your discernment, so nothing crosses into your space unnoticed. Your sensitivity is evidence that God is preparing you for authority, not fear. Sometimes a room feels like it has been visited, not by a human, but by a presence that does not belong. The atmosphere inside that space carries weight, a lingering stillness that feels foreign. This is not imagination. Spiritual footprints leave residue. When something tries to occupy your territory, the environment records its intrusion. Tonight, that residue will be cleansed. Your sleep pattern may shift dramatically. You fall asleep easily but awaken suddenly without explanation. This spiritual interruption is not meant to trouble you. It is meant to alert you. The Spirit of God disrupts your rest because something attempted to cross the boundary of your peace. Heaven always rises before you do. Sometimes you sense movement behind you, not as a sound, but as awareness. Your spirit reacts before your body responds. This sensation reveals how closely the unseen realm has approached. God does not allow these moments to frighten you. He allows them so you can rise in authority and reclaim the ground that darkness tried to walk across. The emotional tone of your home may shift. What felt warm earlier suddenly feels unsettled. You may feel frustrated for no reason, irritated without cause, or unusually sensitive to small things. These emotional shifts are not just moods. They are spiritual attempts to influence your atmosphere. Darkness uses emotion as a tool, but tonight, its grip will break. You might find yourself praying in a tone you didn't plan, or using words you didn't rehearse. Authority rises in you without effort. This shift is not from your mind, it's from your spirit responding to God's prompting. When the atmosphere becomes spiritually charged, the Spirit of God inside you becomes bolder. Sometimes a sudden sound pierces the quiet of the night. Something drops, something creaks, something shifts. Not all these noises are natural. Some are the signatures of spiritual movement trying to unsettle your peace. But the fact that you notice them means heaven has opened your awareness to what once hid in the background. Your home may produce unusual energy patterns during spiritual conflict. One area feels colder, another feels tense, another feels weighty. These shifts show where invisible activity has occurred. But every place that has been touched by the enemy will be purified by the fire of God. Occasionally, your dreams turn into confrontations. You see yourself fighting, praying, running, or standing before something dark. These dreams are not random. They are reflections of your spiritual authority rising. Heaven is allowing your spirit to engage in battles your natural eyes cannot witness. Sometimes you awaken with a prayer already forming on your lips. Words come out before you fully understand them. This is divine impulse. God speaks through you even before your mind fully awakens. These moments reveal his active protection and his immediate involvement in your home. Your spirit may feel pulled into certain rooms at night, as though something is drawing you there. These spiritual nudges are not to frighten you. They are to help you identify where darkness attempted entry. Every space you feel drawn toward is a space heaven is preparing to reclaim. The atmosphere in your home might suddenly feel divided. Peace in one corner, tension in another. This imbalance is a spiritual indicator revealing where forces have tried to settle. But now that the imbalance has come to light, heaven is ready to restore harmony with divine strength. Sometimes you feel as though someone walked past you when no one moved. This sensation is not physical. It is spiritual proximity brushing against your awareness. Darkness attempts to move silently, but your spirit detects its motion instantly. When you sense this brush, it means the enemy is losing its ability to hide. The night may carry a strange pressure that makes you sit up, look around, or feel the need to pray. This pressure is a spiritual tug-of-war happening around you. The forces of heaven are pushing back against what tried to remain in your environment. You are sensing the victory before it becomes visible. Your prayers may suddenly carry more force. A simple phrase feels like thunder. A quiet word feels like a decree. This is because the Spirit of God in you recognizes that the unseen realm is listening. Darkness cannot remain where authority is spoken. Every declaration you make tonight will dismantle what tried to rise. Sometimes your home grows so quiet it feels unnatural. The silence becomes intense, almost too thick to breathe in. This silence is not emptiness. It is the moment before spiritual exposure. Heaven quiets the atmosphere to reveal what has been moving unseen. You are being positioned. That boldness is not coming from your personality. It is coming from the presence of God rising inside you. When divine courage awakens, darkness begins to tremble to witness the truth. Your spirit might begin to feel bold, fearless, and ready to confront whatever has disturbed your nights. Tonight marks the turning point. Everything that crept through the night, everything that tried to monitor you, everything that fed on silence and shadows, is about to face the judgment of God. Your home is shifting from being watched to being defended. The night will no longer host intruders. It will host victory. When the spiritual climate around your home thickens, it often means something has been exposed. The unseen realm reacts when its movements are noticed, and the atmosphere around you begins to reflect the struggle. Your sensitivity is not a burden. It is the sign that you are spiritually awake in a time when many are spiritually asleep. Heaven sharpens those who are chosen to guard their environment. Strange tension may linger in the air, as if something has paused mid-movement. This pause is not random. It is the moment darkness realizes it has been detected. Unseen forces hesitate when your spirit rises in awareness, because the light of God within you disrupts anything that tries to hide in the shadows. Your dreams may transition from confusion to clarity. What once looked like incomplete images now becomes clear scenes, revealing what has been drifting through your nights. God brings revelation when understanding is needed. The images you see in your dreams are heaven's method of showing you the truth that your natural eyes missed. Sometimes you will sense a sudden push to pray, even when you feel tired. This urging is not coincidence. It is divine timing. God pulls you into prayer exactly when spiritual interference is trying to break through. Your voice in those moments becomes a weapon that cuts through the atmosphere like lightning. The corners of your home may feel spiritually noisy even when the house is quiet. You may feel pressure near the walls or notice the atmosphere shifting when you walk into certain spaces. These reactions occur because spiritual presence leaves imprints in the environment. When something unwelcome lingers, your spirit detects it even before your mind catches up. Your emotions may move between peace and alertness without warning. This emotional fluctuation does not reflect instability. It reflects spiritual activity. Your spirit responds to movement around you because it was designed to discern. God uses your internal reactions to reveal what your eyes cannot see. You may feel drawn to speak the name of Jesus unexpectedly. This is not by chance. The name begins to rise in your spirit when darkness presses closer than it should. Your mouth becomes the doorway for divine authority, and every time the name of Jesus leaves your lips, the atmosphere shifts in your favor. At times you may feel watched, not by a human presence, but by something that stirred when you entered the room. This sensation is spiritual awareness at its peak. Your spirit is detecting what lingers in silence. You are not imagining this. You are discerning the presence of something that heaven is ready to drive out. Your sleep may become deeper on certain nights, almost heavy, as if your spirit has been working even while your body rests. This heaviness is not fatigue. It is spiritual engagement. Your spirit battles on your behalf when your physical strength weakens. What feels like intense sleep is often a sign that spiritual warfare unfolded around you. Sometimes you wake up and feel like the air in the room has shifted. The atmosphere seems lighter or heavier, warmer or colder. This is because spiritual activities alter the environment. When heaven intervenes or when darkness retreats, your senses pick up the results immediately. You may feel inclined to open your Bible or play worship without knowing why. This is the Spirit of God guiding your atmosphere. The Word introduces light wherever it enters, and worship breaks the structure of any invisible presence trying to remain in your home. These actions are divine strategies, not human impulses. The night may begin to feel shorter when your spirit becomes more active. You find yourself alert at hours you normally sleep through. This is a sign that your inner man refuses to stay silent while something tries to move through your environment. God awakens warriors, not observers. Your discernment sharpens to the point where you can feel when something enters or leaves a room. The shift is subtle but undeniable. This sensitivity is spiritual maturity growing inside you. The more your spirit responds, the more authority you gain over what attempts to influence your surroundings. You may begin pacing your room without recognizing why. Your spirit is walking the territory, reclaiming it with every step. Movement becomes warfare when done under divine prompting. The ground you walk becomes sealed under the authority of heaven. Your thoughts may suddenly align with scriptures you haven't read recently. Verses rise in your mind at the exact moment you feel spiritual pressure. This is the Holy Spirit giving you weapons in real time, equipping you with words that dismantle every hidden presence. Sometimes you wake up and feel a strong sense of victory without praying yet. This is because heaven has already acted on your behalf during the night. Angels finished what your spirit started, and now you are awakening into the victory they secured. The night may begin to feel quieter than usual. Not disturbing quiet, but holy quiet. This is the stillness that follows divine intervention. It is the silence of victory, a calm that settles after spiritual conflict has been defeated. Your home begins to feel protected, guarded, and covered, and now your spirit stands taller. You feel yourself becoming spiritually stronger, more aware, more aligned with heaven's movement. What once frightened you now strengthens you. What once confused you now empowers you. The night that once felt threatening now becomes a testimony of how God guards your home, reveals the unseen, and exposes everything that moves in silence. When God begins to reclaim your home, the spiritual atmosphere shifts from uncertainty to dominion. You feel it in the calm that settles after prayer, the unusual peace that blankets each room, and the clarity that begins to form in your thoughts. This is not just emotional relief. It is the evidence that heaven has stepped into your environment with authority. What once felt intimidating now feels exposed. The shadows that once seemed alive lose their grip, and the corners that carried tension begin to release their heaviness. This change is spiritual cleansing. The forces that once lingered quietly in the background have been confronted, and their influence has weakened under God's presence. Your spirit begins to breathe differently. The pressure that once rested on your chest lifts. Your mind becomes calmer, and your emotions realign with peace. These internal changes are signs of spiritual victory. Your inner world responds instantly when the external atmosphere is cleared. Even the silence feels different. It no longer carries weight or hidden tension. It becomes peaceful, serene, almost sacred. This kind of silence is evidence of divine order settling into your surroundings. Where darkness once hid, light now rests without resistance. Your mind begins to regain strength. Thoughts that were once clouded now come into focus. Anxiety weakens. Clarity rises, and your ability to discern becomes stronger. This is how God restores your spiritual radar after confronting unseen intruders. He sharpens your perception so nothing catches you unaware again. You may begin noticing how different your home feels when you enter after being away. What used to feel spiritually unsettled now feels stable and warm. This shift reveals that the spiritual atmosphere has been purified. God has established his presence in places where darkness once attempted to hide. Your prayers begin to flow with greater ease. What once felt heavy now feels natural. Words rise effortlessly, and your spirit aligns quickly with the presence of God. This is because the environment no longer resists your voice. The air has been cleared, and your authority is no longer opposed. Dreams become clearer and more prophetic. Instead of dark images or disturbing encounters, you begin seeing guidance, warnings, instructions, and visions that bring clarity. This shift means the spiritual interference that once tampered with your dream realm has been removed. Your sleep becomes deeper and more refreshing. You wake up feeling strengthened instead of drained. This is evidence that your spirit was no longer battling through the night. When spiritual warfare decreases, rest becomes easier, and restoration flows freely. You may find yourself declaring scriptures unexpectedly throughout the day. These declarations are signs of your spirit, adjusting to a higher frequency of divine presence. When the word rises naturally within you, it means your environment has become synchronized with the presence of God. The emotional heaviness that once sat in specific rooms is gone. Spaces that once felt unpleasant now feel comfortable. This shift is not psychological. It is spiritual transformation. God cleanses environments before he strengthens those who dwell in them. You may notice that conflicts decrease in your home. Small arguments that once sparked without reason now dissolve quickly. This peace is the result of spiritual disorder being removed. Where darkness once stirred tension, divine peace now stands guard. Your sensitivity grows, not in fear, but in discernment. You begin picking up subtle changes in the atmosphere, recognizing what aligns with God and what does not. This heightened awareness is a gift, enabling you to maintain spiritual purity in your home. You may begin hearing the Holy Spirit more clearly. Instructions, warnings, encouragement, or sudden wisdom enter your heart with unusual clarity. This clarity means the spiritual static that once interfered with divine communication has been removed. Sometimes you will feel a sudden urge to worship. This desire is not emotional, it is spiritual alignment. Worship becomes natural when the atmosphere is filled with God's presence. Every song you release becomes a seal over your home. Your confidence begins to grow. You feel spiritually taller, emotionally stronger, and more grounded. This is the effect of spiritual victory. Every battle you overcome adds weight to your authority, and every confrontation strengthens your foundation. You may sense a new level of spiritual protection. The air feels guarded, your home feels secure, and your nights feel lighter. Heaven assigns angels to places where battles have been fought and won. Their presence becomes the new atmosphere of your home. And as this transformation continues, you realize that your home has shifted from a place of disturbance to a place of revelation. God has not only cleared out what moved in the night, he has established dominion over every room. The peace you now feel is the result of heaven taking full ownership of your environment. When heaven establishes dominion in your home, the spiritual landscape around you shifts permanently. What once felt chaotic becomes ordered. What once felt unsettling becomes peaceful. And what once moved in darkness now flees at the slightest whisper of your voice. This transformation is not temporary. It is the evidence that your home has become a territory of divine authority. Your spirit begins to sense a new stability. The ground beneath your feet feels firmer, your thoughts more anchored, your heart more confident. This stability is not psychological. It is spiritual reinforcement. God has strengthened the foundations of your dwelling, so nothing unseen can shake it again. Even the air carries a different kind of purity. You inhale peace instead of tension, clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of fear. The atmosphere itself testifies that divine order has replaced spiritual disorder. This shift is proof that heaven has not only visited, but settled. Your nights begin to feel protected rather than vulnerable. You fall asleep without the weight that once pressed on your spirit. The darkness that used to feel threatening now feels powerless. This is what happens when the presence of God becomes the dominant force in your environment. Your awareness becomes sharper, not because something is wrong, but because your discernment has matured. You can identify spiritual disturbances long before they form. What used to frighten you now alerts you. What used to confuse you now empowers you. You have transitioned from reacting to leading. Your dreams evolve into guidance rather than warfare. You see warnings, instructions, and prophetic insights. Instead of battling shadows, you receive direction from heaven. The shift in your dream life means the enemy has lost access to the areas it once tried to infiltrate. Sometimes you wake up with a sense of divine presence resting in the room. It feels as though God himself has been watching over you during the night. This awareness is not imagined. It is the residue of angelic activity around your bed. Heaven guards a home where its presence is welcomed. Your prayers begin to carry a deeper tone. They feel stronger, more direct, more authoritative. This is because the spiritual resistance that once opposed your voice has been broken. Your words now travel unhindered through the atmosphere and strike with the force of divine power. You may notice a fresh desire to dedicate certain rooms in your home to prayer. This urge is not accidental. It is a prompting from the Spirit. When God establishes his presence in a place, he often calls you to cultivate that place into a spiritual altar. Your home becomes a refuge, not only for you, but for others. People walk in and feel peace without knowing why. They sense comfort, clarity, and rest simply by stepping across your threshold. This is the mark of a spiritually cleansed environment. Others can feel what God has done, even if they cannot describe it. Sometimes you feel moments of overwhelming gratitude rise within you. Tears flow unexpectedly, not from pain, but from recognition of what God has delivered you from. These emotional surges are spiritual acknowledgments of victory won in silence. Your nights become quieter in a holy way. The silence feels like a blanket, not an empty void. You can sense the nearness of God, even when you say nothing. This quietness is the sound of spiritual enemies withdrawing and the presence of heaven resting. Your spiritual authority deepens without you noticing. You speak less, but carry more weight. You pray shorter prayers, but produce greater results. This is not because you have changed. It is because the atmosphere around you has aligned with the power of God. You may begin to feel a calling to protect others who face spiritual disturbances. This compassion is born from your own deliverance. Heaven trains those who have overcome darkness to guide others out of it. What you survive becomes the foundation of your ministry. Your home becomes a place where revelation flows easily. Ideas come quickly, solutions appear instantly, and wisdom rises without effort. This clarity is evidence that no spiritual interference remains to cloud your mind or distort your discernment. Occasionally you may sense the lingering memory of previous battles, but without fear. These memories do not haunt, they remind. They testify to the battles you have already won, the enemies already defeated, and the spiritual maturity you have gained. Every room begins to feel like a sanctuary. Even the places that once carried heaviness now radiate peace. This transformation is the signature of God's presence. He does not visit to comfort you temporarily. He remains to establish victory for the long term. And now you stand in a home that has been spiritually reclaimed. Every corner is covered, every doorway guarded, every atmosphere purified. The night that once carried movement now carries peace. The shadows that once hid intruders now host the presence of God. Your home has shifted from being watched by darkness to being watched over by heaven. When a home becomes saturated with divine presence, the spiritual environment begins to send out signals that darkness can no longer ignore. Forces that once moved freely now sense the fire at your doorstep. The atmosphere of your dwelling becomes a warning to anything unclean. This territory is no longer unguarded. Your spirit becomes more confident as the days pass. What once weighed heavily on your heart now feels insignificant compared to the strength rising within you. This confidence is not pride. It is spiritual assurance. You are becoming aware of the authority God has placed over your home. At night, a different kind of stillness settles into your rooms. It is not silence caused by emptiness. It is silence crafted by protection. The air feels watched over. The walls feel shielded, and your steps feel guided. This is the quietness of victory, the calm that follows spiritual conquest. Your senses sharpen in a way that feels almost supernatural. You can walk into a room and instantly discern whether peace or disturbance has been there. God is training your spirit to read the atmosphere so you can guard your home with precision. Discernment becomes your spiritual eyesight in the unseen realm. Your prayer life transforms into a lifestyle rather than an activity. Words flow naturally, sometimes without you even realizing you're praying. This is because your environment has aligned itself with divine rhythms. Prayer becomes the language of your atmosphere. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, not from disturbance, but from presence. You feel warmth in your room, a soft weight of glory resting on your chest, or a gentle whisper stirring your heart. These moments are signs that heaven is not only protecting you, but communing with you. Your dreams begin to reveal strategies rather than battles. You see visions of what to pray about, who to intercede for, or decisions you must make. These dreams are divine downloads, given to you because your home has become a spiritual command center rather than a battlefield. During the day, you may feel sudden waves of peace flow through your environment. These waves are not emotional swings. They are spiritual reinforcements. God strengthens your spirit throughout the day so that the nights remain guarded and your home remains sealed. Your home becomes a place where God speaks. You hear his voice more clearly, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in impressions, sometimes in sudden insights. The noise that once interfered with divine communication has been silenced, allowing revelation to flow unhindered. Even the shadows in your home feel different. They no longer carry tension or spiritual weight. Instead, they simply mark the absence of light, nothing more. Darkness has lost its influence. Its movements have been halted by the presence that fills your dwelling. Visitors may begin commenting on how peaceful your home feels. They may say they sleep better, breathe easier, or feel unusually calm when they enter. These comments are confirmations. Your home has become a spiritual refuge, even for those who do not understand why. Sometimes you will feel guided to rearrange your home, not for aesthetic reasons, but spiritual ones. You may shift furniture, open windows, or remove certain objects you no longer feel comfortable with. This is the Spirit cleansing the atmosphere and preparing your space for even greater encounters with God. Your voice gains spiritual weight in your home. When you command peace, it settles. When you rebuke disturbance, it leaves. When you declare scripture, the atmosphere responds instantly. This is the authority of a person whose territory has been fully reclaimed. The nights that once felt dangerous now feel holy. You begin to sleep without fear, without tension, without interruption. Every moment of rest becomes an act of worship, a sign of trust in God's protection over your life and your household. The spiritual clarity you carry begins to influence your daily decisions. You feel guided to avoid certain people, reject certain invitations, or change certain habits. This guidance is not fear, it is divine direction. A spiritually clean home produces a spiritually sharp mind. Your heart becomes more sensitive to the promptings of the Holy Spirit. You feel nudges to pray for someone at unexpected times. You feel led to speak words of encouragement or make declarations over your own life. This sensitivity grows because your environment nurtures your spiritual ear. And day after day, you realize something profound. Your home is no longer the same. The nights do not carry the shadows they once did. The air does not hide unseen movement anymore, and your spirit does not wrestle with what once walked silently in the dark. Heaven has taken residence in your dwelling, and everything that once threatened your peace has lost its power. When spiritual victory becomes established in your home, the atmosphere begins to carry a divine fragrance. Not one you smell with your nose, but one your spirit recognizes immediately. It feels like purity, like clarity, like a gentle but powerful presence hovering over every room. This shift marks the moment your home becomes more than a dwelling. It becomes a sanctuary. Your heart begins to beat with steadier confidence. The fear that once lingered in the back of your mind dissolves without effort. You no longer question whether you are safe. You simply know. This knowing is spiritual assurance, rooted in the revelation that heaven has taken responsibility for your surroundings. The air itself feels clean, almost lighter. You breathe more deeply, think more clearly, and rest more peacefully. This environmental purity is not psychological. It is spiritual cleansing. God has filtered the atmosphere and removed whatever once contaminated your peace. Nights that once felt long now pass quickly. You fall asleep faster, remain at rest longer, and wake with renewed strength. Your body responds to what your spirit already knows. The night is no longer a battleground. Peace has replaced warfare, and restoration has replaced disruption. Your spirit becomes more alert in gentle ways, not from fear, but from sensitivity. You can feel when the presence of God enters a room. You can sense when the atmosphere shifts toward prayer. Your discernment becomes sharper because nothing competes with the voice of God anymore. Dreams become streams of revelation. You see answers, warnings, encouragements, and clear spiritual insights. You wake up with understanding instead of confusion. This clarity is a sign that the interference that once tampered with your dream realm has been removed by divine authority. You may begin to feel an invisible warmth in certain rooms. It is not physical heat. It's spiritual presence. The warmth of God settles into places where darkness once lingered. When His presence takes residence, the atmosphere transforms into a shield around your spirit. Your thoughts become aligned with peace. Worries lose their grip. Anxieties loosen, and intrusive thoughts fade. This mental clarity reveals that the spiritual battles around your home have quieted. Victory in the unseen always produces calm in the mind. You may notice a deeper hunger for the Word of God. Scriptures speak louder, meanings feel sharper, and verses settle in your heart like anchors. This hunger is a witness that your environment is now conducive to revelation. The soil of your home has become fertile for spiritual growth. Your prayers feel more intimate, almost conversational. You sense God listening, responding, and guiding your words. The distance you once felt during prayer is gone. Heaven feels close because the atmosphere of your home has become familiar territory for the Spirit of God. Sometimes you feel sudden waves of gratitude that bring tears to your eyes. These moments arise when your spirit recognizes the transformation your home has undergone. Gratitude is the natural reaction when heaven removes what once oppressed you. People who visit your home may comment that it feels unusually peaceful, even if they don't understand why. Their spirits recognize the shift before their minds can explain it. Your home has become a place where the tired find rest and the troubled find calm. You begin to make decisions with clearer conviction. Doubt fades, confusion weakens, wisdom rises. This clarity is the result of spiritual interference being removed. When the atmosphere is clean, your spirit can hear divine direction without distortion. Your nights may start to feel sacred. The darkness no longer carries fear, it carries stillness. The silence feels alive with peace, rather than emptiness. You sleep with confidence because the presence of God fills your home with unseen protection. Sometimes you feel guided to pray at unexpected hours, not out of fear, but connection. These moments are divine invitations to partnership with heaven. God awakens those who have proven faithful in spiritual stewardship. Your home begins to feel like a hidden fortress, not loud, not dramatic, but spiritually fortified. Nothing moves without your discernment catching it. Nothing enters without being confronted. Peace reigns not because the night is empty, but because the presence of God occupies every space. And as this spiritual stability deepens, you realize that what once threatened your nights has lost all authority. Your home has transitioned from a place of vulnerability to a place of victory. The peace you feel is not temporary. It is the signature of heaven, dwelling where darkness once dared to move. When the presence of God fully settles over your home, something shifts in the spiritual architecture of the atmosphere. You feel it before you understand it. A gentle stillness comes over your rooms. A holy weight rests on the air. This is the sign that heaven has not only visited your dwelling, it has made it a place of residence. Your spirit begins to move with a new level of confidence. You walk through your hallway with peace instead of alertness. You rest without monitoring the atmosphere. You pray without resistance. This ease is not weakness. It is evidence that the unseen forces that once resisted you no longer hold ground. Your nights start becoming moments of divine encounter. You may wake up and sense a presence of calm so strong that it feels like someone is standing near you, not in fear, but in protection. It is the nearness of God reminding you that He watches when you sleep and guards when you rest. Your home begins to echo with a new kind of spiritual resonance. When you speak, the atmosphere receives your words. When you worship, the air feels alive. When you pray, the walls feel like they respond. This is the transformation of space that occurs when heaven claims a territory for itself. Sometimes you sit quietly, and your spirit feels wrapped in peace. This peace does not come from silence alone. It comes from divine habitation. Peace becomes the dominant language of your environment, and everything within your home begins to vibrate with that harmony. Your dreams transform into visions and messages. God speaks in gentle images, prophetic impressions, and scenes that offer direction. You begin to understand that your dream life has shifted from warfare to revelation. The night becomes a classroom instead of a battlefield. Your spirit becomes open to hearing whispers from heaven throughout the day. You receive sudden insights while walking, unexpected clarity while sitting, or divine ideas while resting. This flow of revelation is the result of an atmosphere free from disruption. You begin to notice that frustration no longer lingers. Emotional heaviness that once clung to certain rooms has vanished. Even moments of sadness feel lighter. The environment does not hold you down. It lifts you up. This is the nature of a spiritually restored home. Your language changes without effort. You speak words of faith naturally. Encouragement flows effortlessly. Fearful thoughts lose their place. This shift happens because your tongue reflects the peace of the space you inhabit. Certain places in your home may begin to feel especially sacred. A chair where you pray. A room where God speaks clearly. A corner where peace settles deeply. These become spiritual landmarks, places where heaven meets earth consistently. Your sense of time in the night changes. Midnight no longer feels dark. It feels holy. Early morning hours feel refreshing instead of empty. You no longer dread the night. You embrace it as a time when God's presence rests strongest in your home. Sometimes you walk into a room and feel the urge to thank God without knowing why. This gratitude rises from your spirit's recognition that what once moved in the dark has disappeared. The absence of spiritual disturbance creates a natural overflow of worship. Your home becomes a sanctuary, not only for you, but for those connected to you. People call you and feel peace through your voice. Family members enter your house and sense comfort. Friends who once carried heaviness feel lighter in your presence. This is the overflow of a spiritually cleansed environment. Your own identity becomes clearer. You begin to realize that the battles you fought were training, not punishment. Your discernment becomes sharper, your authority stronger, and your confidence rooted in God rather than circumstances. You begin to walk with a sense of divine ownership. You know your home is guarded. You know your nights are protected. You know your atmosphere is secured by the presence of God. Fear becomes a memory, not a companion. Your spirit begins to anticipate blessing. You sense breakthrough approaching, opportunities forming, and divine favor opening doors. This expectation flows from a restored environment. Blessings move freely in homes where peace reigns. You realize that your home is no longer a target. It is a testimony. Everything that once moved against you has been overruled by the presence that now fills your space. What once disturbed your nights has no voice, no power, and no place anymore. And now your home stands as a symbol of what God can restore. The nights that once terrified you are now covered by peace. The shadows that once hid intruders now reveal nothing but stillness. Your environment has shifted from survival to victory, from disturbance to dominion, from darkness to divine habitation. Heaven has claimed your home, and nothing unclean will ever reclaim it. As you stand at the end of this journey, let this truth settle in your spirit. The atmosphere of your home is no longer the same. What once moved in silence has been driven out. What once whispered in the dark has been silenced. What once attempted to invade your nights has been overruled by the presence of the Almighty. Every corner of your dwelling now carries the imprint of divine authority. The peace you feel is not temporary, it is covenantal. The stillness you sense is not empty, it is guarded. Heaven has repositioned your home under its covering, and no force of darkness can challenge what God has established. Your nights are protected, your sleep is secured, your walls are shielded, your atmosphere is purified. You are no longer a passive resident. You are the spiritual gatekeeper of your dwelling. Every step you take is a declaration of ownership. Every word you speak carries weight. Every prayer you release sends ripples through the unseen realm. You now walk in the authority of one who has seen God reclaim what once felt vulnerable. Let your spirit stand tall. Let your heart remain anchored. Let your home continue to be a place where the presence of God rests, speaks, moves, and dwells. The shadows that once frightened you have been replaced with light. The disturbances that once troubled you have been swallowed by peace. The movements that once monitored you have been expelled by divine fire. And now you step into a new chapter, not of fear, but of dominion, not of survival, but of victory, not of watching the night, but of owning it. For the God who never sleeps has taken his place in your home, and as long as his presence remains, nothing unclean will ever rise again. May your nights become altars of encounter. May your days be filled with clarity. May your dreams overflow with revelation. May your home remain a sanctuary where heaven feels at home. This is your everlasting solution. This is your turning point. This is your victory seal.